about it when he left office in 1961.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes.
Yep. Whoa. Put on the brakes. Welcome, boys and girls, children of all ages, hoofties, poofties, bung-eyed heifers, right and left wing wackos, woodchucks and chuckettes, kings and queens of the Northeast Kingdom, and little dogs too. What you got to say for yourself? Anything? Huh? Come on, man. Whoa. Why don't you do it? Why don't you talk? Say something. And little dogs too, to another version of It's News to Us.
When you're done, he has a lot to say.
Oh, man, yeah, at the end of the show, we can't shut him up.
We got over here.
The poor engineer has to wear headphones or take out his appliances for the damn dog gets so loud.
Okay, here we go. You ready?
Yes, and you are watching It's News to Us, where Newport Georgia's TV news watches new. Hail Neil Brown Cow. Hopefully we've got the bugs ironed out. Last week's show we had some problems, electronic problems, with our crack engineer, and well, the equipment, not the engineer. We got adult themes.
The equipment was on crack.
Yeah, it sure seems that way some days. Mm-hmm. We got adult themes and adult language, but not really. You're advised. We're all inclusive here. We cater to men, women, men who think they're women, who look like men, who act like women, who think they're men. And we're going to see a lot of that in the new administration if the Supreme Court don't step in, I think. We're going to see the first quadrisexual Pacific Islander Secretary of the Lower Exterior. And beware the Bronze Age invisible sky god. He's going to beat you and forgive you and beat you and forgive you. And we'd like attack ideas here, not people. I mean, I showed Philo a clip yesterday from a guy who got arrested down in Ashburnham, Mass. There's some beautiful trails, and defund the police? No, defend them, okay? They got a crappy job. The pay's not that good. And here's what we were telling you about this. If you guys look this up and you look at page 39, the last paragraph, it says they have no quantified virus isolates. I mean, I'm all like, what? Wait a minute. How can you be testing for something you don't have? But that's neither here nor there. But anyways, in Ashburnham, they have it used to be a ski area. It's called what do you call it? In geologic terms, it's called a roche montagneuse, okay? I'm sure you remember what that means from college, right, Terry?
Yeah, Rogue Mountain.
Close. It means a sheepback mountain. Which is what happens when the glaciers came wearing down the mountains. They're always like sloping towards the north, where they were abraded from the gravel and the ice, and then steep on the south. And one of those is Mount Watatic, and it was a great ski area. They ran that ski area up there. Oh, since I was a kid, it was a great place to go. They had night skiing and stuff, and now it's all a bunch of nature trails. Well, there's some girls out there last week before. They're out in the middle of nowhere, nobody around, two young gals, and luckily they had their phones with them, camera phones with them, and lo and behold, this nutbag, a 71-year-old nutbag, comes hiking up the trail, and he starts telling them, you should be wearing your mask. And they're all like, hey, we're far enough away from you. We're out here in the middle of nowhere. We don't need the mask, whatever. Go away. And he's there like, you need to wear the mask. I'm telling you, you need to wear the mask. And you can see this. Just look up Ashburnham assault or whatever. It's all over the web on Boston TV stations, too. And so what does the guy do? He takes off his mask and he comes charging at the women and starts spitting at them, saying like, "I'm COVID positive. I hope you get the virus." And it's making people crazy, and it's making people crazy, and there's nothing to fear from it, okay? At this point in time, unless you are over 80 years old, have pre-existing conditions, your chances of getting this virus are slim to none, are getting killed by this virus are slim to none. And it's just a bunch of fear. And one of the things, and I asked Dr. Levine this, yours truly. I was in on the press conference yesterday. Yeah, Tuesday. I was in on the press conference yesterday. And of course, how convenient, Dr. Levine had to go somewhere until after I was in the queue, and then once I left, he miraculously comes in, and they allowed other reporters to give him questions. Had I known they were going to do that, you know, I would have hit speed dial and gone back and asked him some questions, specifically the same question I asked him last time, which is about this PCR method, okay? It is not a PCR test. We told you about this guy. You can look him up at KaryBanksMullis.com, K-A-R-Y, Banks, B-A-N-K-S, Mullis, M-U-L-L-I-S.com. He has his own website. He died a few years ago. He invented this method where it multiplies genetic material, okay? And even St. Anthony, Dr. Fauci, said if you use it, if you do it more than if you do this method more than 30 cycles, you're going to start finding stuff that's not there, okay? And so I asked him which the labs that we are using down in Mass, okay? Now this means the difference between a case, a positive case, and I mean a serious case, okay? Because if you go at 30 cycles, which is the recommended, which is still too high in my opinion, you're going to find pieces of virus that could be there from God knows where. The person is not infectious and won't be. If you go to 40 cycles where they test it 4 times more, then you're going to start finding it's nuts, okay? So anyways, the news division here at NEK was nice enough to camera 2, por favor, Terry. This is a great place, and AmericanThinker.com, our news division, was kind enough to print this up for me, and this is by Dr. Brian June Deep.
The printing's a bit light, isn't it?
Pardon me?
The printing's a bit light.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. June Depth. His name is Brian, traditional spelling, JOONDEPH, MD. He says, there's been people recover from their virtual Thanksgiving. The media is pushing their propaganda narrative that Dementia Joe really won the presidential election, and COVID cases are once again surging across America. I'll get to the election stuff afterwards, okay?
That's why everything's surging, is because Joe won.
Oh, yeah.
He's causing the virus. Just him winning the election, he's causing the virus. I can see it now.
Well, it's funny that you mention that, because we're not supposed to get together for funerals or Thanksgiving or holidays or anything like that, but man, oh man, on November 4th or 5th, whenever the media came out and called the election, people were in the streets, and they even got Chuck Schumer. Did you see that video of that one?
No, but we had our Thanksgiving meeting?
Where?
Walmart. With a bunch of people we don't even know.
There you go.
See, isn't this the hypocrisy though, Steve? Like you were saying,
Yeah.
You can't have Thanksgiving with anybody that's not in your household, but it's okay to go out and go shopping. Just go shopping.
Or like Dr. Fauci said, it's okay for you to hook up with a stranger on Tinder that's what you got to do. I mean, you got to hook up with a perfect stranger. You want to take that chance. It's okay.
Well, nobody's perfect.
Yeah. So.
Anyways, gang.
Yeah, so anyways, Chuck Schumer, the height of hypocrisy, he's out there, and they're getting him on camera. He says, and now we're going to win Georgia. He says, Joe Biden won, and we're going to win Georgia. He's surrounded by people, half have no masks on in Times Square or whatever. And Chuck E. Schumer just happens to show up, and we're going to go on, and we're going to take Georgia, and we're going to take over the world. And then someone hits him with their elbow and says, you should better put on a mask, right? So then he says, oh, crap. And he puts on a mask and he says, and now that Biden's won, we're going to take over Georgia and the country, not the world.
I know what he said when he put his mask on.
Pardon me?
I know what he said when he put his mask on.
What's that? Yeah, like the teacher in Charlie Brown. So anyways, back to Dr. June Depp. The Washington Post claims the cases are skyrocketing. In the Times wails that it has hit us with a vengeance. Yet the media is oblivious, either ignorantly or deliberately, to the reality that positive tests are not the same thing as cases. A case is a specific definition beyond the realm of Wolf Blitzer or Neil Cavuto. The CDC provides a specific case definition. And go to the CDC's website and look it up for yourself. Don't believe an idiot like me. I'm just an idiot who wears funky hats. And for those of you people who are just seeing this maybe for the first time on YouTube or whatever, the reason that we do the stupid hats is to capture the channel surfers in the old days. Because see, this cable goes up to the local mountain where people come to vacation and ski and stuff. And so people are channel surfing. So we figured if we wear these stupid hats, then somebody's surfing through the channels, they see somebody with a weird hat, they stop surfing and they say, what the hell's this guy talking about? And that's how we got a lot of viewers, hence the stupid hats. And the same thing with the gut pus. People from all over the country have asked me what the gut pus means. Oh, and there's Mac, he's dead. Terry just killed him.
He almost killed me with laughter earlier, but please continue.
The poor dog died. He died. So the same thing with the gut pus. People don't realize that there's a thing called SCC, the somatic cell count, which means there is an allowable level of pus in every glass of milk. And again, don't trust me, look it up. Look up the somatic cell count. But anyways, a case is not just a positive test. Instead, what's needed is presumptive lab evidence and either clinical criteria or epidemiological evidence. Notice "and," meaning simply not simply a positive test. The current surges are positive tests, and even those are suspect, without regard to those who test positive are actually sick or not. I was curious about this testing last weekend and gave it a whirl. It took about 20 minutes and was free, meaning I got what I paid for. As they promised it within 3 days, but it took over 7 to find out I was virus-free. Given the sensitivity of the PCR test, again, it's not PCR test, it's a method, it's likely that some of those being tested without any symptoms or exposure will be reported as positive and added to the numbers constantly running on the network so-called news. Saying someone with a positive COVID test is fraudulent. For comparison, blood glucose has an upper limit test of 140. Is everyone above that number a diabetic? Even if you just ate a donut or an ice cream cone before testing? Or does it make it more that a single blood glucose level before one is diagnosed with diabetes? Does a single elevated blood pressure test make one hypertensive? Certainly not. COVID is testing using the PCR, which amplifies any viral fragments found in the nose repeatedly until the test is positive. This is called the amplification cycle, and the higher that number, the more likely a positive test will be returned, even if it is clinically insignificant, okay? And we've been telling you this and telling you this, but there's none so blind as those who refuse to see. From that bastion of right-wing conspiracy, the New York Times says, the standard tests are diagnosing huge numbers of people who may be carrying relatively insignificant amounts of the virus. Most of these people are not likely to be contagious, and IDing them may contribute to bottlenecks that prevent those who are contagious from being found in time. The amplification cycle is the problem. The PCR method amplifies genetic matter from the virus in cycles. The fewer cycles required, the greater the amount of virus or viral load in the sample. The greater the viral load, the more likely the patient is to be contagious. With too high of a amp cycle, the PCR method is hypersensitive. Most commercial tests set the threshold at 40, whereas it would be more meaningful if it was much lower, say at 30, like even Dr. St. Fauci recommends. Otherwise, the Times notes, tests with thresholds so high may detect not just live virus, but also genetic fragments left over from infection that pose no particular risk, akin to finding a hair in a room long after a person has left. The CDC admits the test is too sensitive. The CDC's own calculations suggest it's extremely difficult to detect any live virus in a sample above the threshold of 33 cycles. In Massachusetts, from 85 to 90% of the people who tested positive with a threshold of 40 would have been deemed negative if the threshold were 30. I'll repeat that for those of you on drugs. Okay? In Mass, from 80 to 90% of the people tested positive in July with the cycle threshold of 40 would have been deemed negative if the threshold were set at 30. Garbage in, garbage out. An overly sensitive test, almost 90% of the surge is fake news, fear porn, to justify unnecessary lockdowns and business closures. This is easily understandable basic science and arithmetic. It's not like string theory in quantum mechanics, okay? If the CDC and Times can figure it out and acknowledge it, other journalists can as well and should be asking questions and providing caveats to their surge reporting rather than their typical hair-on-fire reactions. Also unmentioned by the media is the fact that PCR was not designed to test as a screen for infection. Don't take my word for it. That's the opinion of Dr. Carrie Banks Mullis, who invented it and got a Nobel Prize. Beyond the cases, what we look at when we look at deaths, we see the same three-card Monty. Remember last spring when we heard about deaths rather than cases? Fox News had a Dex ticker sidebar, just like a Dow ticker running through the business day. And now the death counts are back in vogue. Each and every one blamed on President Trump. Even the deaths that caused by Governor Cuomo sending infected patients back into nursing homes. We're told that COVID is killing hundreds of thousands. Johns Hopkins recently published a study that found, in contrast to most people's assumptions, the number of deaths by COVID-19 is not alarming. In fact, it has relatively no effects on deaths in the U.S. Now, if anybody wants that study, maybe I can have Todd put it on our Facebook thing here, because as soon as Johns Hopkins put this study up, within 1 day, Terry, remember I sent you the archive version?
Yep, you did.
Within 1 day, they took it down. Why would they take it down, Philo?
Because it doesn't feed their narrative.
Exactly, because it told people not to panic. That compared to other deaths and other years, we're not seeing a hair on fire friggin' pandemic. In contrast to people's assumptions, the number of deaths is not alarming. In fact, it has relatively no effect on deaths in the U.S. In other words, the same number of people died this year compared to last year, the only variable this year being the virus. It seems deaths due to heart, respiratory disease, the flu, pneumonia are down this year. The difference made up in deaths attributed to COVID.
Well,
But the
that's
total
pretty-
number of deaths unchanged from last year to this year. Such a study is inconvenient to the shut it all down narrative, and not surprisingly, Johns Hopkins deleted the study from their website. But fortunately, it was archived and it's out there. And who do you think is stopping people or slowing people down from spreading it via the internet, Philo?
Probably Facebook or maybe Bezos.
Zuckerberg and that other guy, Fred Ziffel from Green Acres.
And his pig Arnold, right?
Yep, Jack Dorsey, the owner of Twitter. He looks just like Fred Ziffel, I'm telling you.
Oh, no, that's not a nice thing to say about poor old Fred.
Yeah.
He's probably dead, isn't he?
Oh, he gotta be. He was old then. Perhaps message crafting is related to financial contributions to Hopkins, whether from China or the $1.8 billion from Trump hater Michael Bloomberg. So Bloomberg gave them $1.8 billion, Philo.
Oh, that's a pretty good amount.
Yeah. Hopkins' motto is, "The truth will set you free," but to paraphrase Orwell, some truths are more equal than others. The ruling class and their media allies are happy to play loose with the numbers, cherry-picking and massaging the data to create fear for many reasons. And that's what I got accused of when I brought up the numbers and stuff through and the cycle with, what's-his-face? Oh, I brought up that study. Oh, which one was it? The mass study, the Danish mass study. I brought that up at the news conference with the Vermont governor and Dr. Levine. And of course, Levine didn't like the Danish mass study, said that masks do next to nothing to stop the spread of the virus, because let's face it, wearing a mask to stop a tiny virus particle is like using a chain link fence to keep out mosquitoes. It's just not working, people. It's a talisman. They admit it. Like a lucky rabbit's foot. COVID fear was used in a campaign issue, blaming everything on you-know-who. It served as an excuse for mail-in ballots and last-minute changes. Shutdowns, masks, and distancing are a way of wannabe dictator governors to flex their power, lest the people become restless and protest electoral fraud. In the quest for safety and security, we must relinquish our freedom and liberty. It's almost as if this was planned out, part of a grand scheme to subversively take over the government, rather than through free elections seeking the consent of the government. Keep your eye on the case numbers, which are simply positive tests, perpetuating the big con that things are far worse than they really are.
Well, you know, the quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens came up positive.
Yeah, and they wouldn't let him play. How's about that?
They've only postponed that game 3 times now. It's going to be played tonight. But here's the kicker. I will guarantee you that just like Cam Newton, you remember him?
Yeah.
He was the co-owner of Fig Newtons, right?
Yeah.
He tested positive. He was playing 2 weeks later. Playing pro football.
Oh, again with the PCR test. If they use 30 cycles, they don't find squat. If they amp it up to 40 cycles, bang.
I don't know what they're going to use on me next week.
You should ask, just for kicks and grins.
I might do that.
Oh, good grief. Swamp Viking. And speaking of quarantining of people coming into the, remember that mic's still hot, boys.
Oh, Steve's show's horrible. Isn't it, Terry?
Horrible. It's just amazing.
I don't mean that. It's just that whatever it's. But anyways, I got this from Swamp Viking. It looks like we had our own Wild West shootout down at the waterfront.
I think there's still one at large, isn't there?
Yeah, and I heard from somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody that this was the same guy that took the cops for a Nantucket sleigh ride through North Troy and Newport Center and everything a little while ago, and they lost him. So, whatever he is, he's a damn good driver. Well, it's happened at 11:30 a.m., but see, they forgot to change their clocks back. It was supposed to be at high noon. And then they were running on CP time, which means they were half an hour late, so it wound up being 11:30. And I'm sure they all quarantined when they came into the state, right? Right?
Well, one of them went over to UVM Medical with a gunshot wound to his leg.
Yeah.
And I'll bet he got treated real fast, unlike that poor lady that had that car accident that they wouldn't treat her because she wouldn't wear a mask.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah. I'll tell you all about her.
Oh, good
Yeah,
grief.
she had an epileptic seizure while driving, and she ended up with several broken bones, and they wouldn't touch her.
Unbelievable.
You got to get tested, and then, oh, okay, you won't get tested. Now you're going off to the COVID unit, and where they just left her there because she wouldn't put a mask on.
Oh, my
Eventually,
God.
she did get her operations.
That's criminal.
Good old UVM Medical. I told her to call a lawyer.
Yeah.
I told her David Slay. I don't know if she ever did.
Especially if they were withholding pain meds while this woman is in pain from a car accident. You know what I mean?
I'm glad I get all my stuff done down at Dartmouth. I don't put up with UVM Medical. Snowflake Hospital.
Yeah, they took okay care of me, but you know, like I don't like seeing doctors by communism. You know what I mean? They have groups of doctors. Instead of assigning one doctor who knows his stuff and maybe teaching the other ones out in the hall or whatever, oh no, they bring in a whole bunch of them, and it's all like, what do you think? Oh, I don't know, what do you think? Well, what do you think? You know, and it's like friggin' communism. But anyways, 2 arraigned in parking lot shooting case. Alleged shooter still at large. And because these people, because the suspects, I'll bet with our fair and impartial policing, Philo, that because the suspects were not Caucasian, the state police probably weren't allowed to pull over anybody that met the description, because that would mean pulling over innocent black people, and that would violate all kinds of fair and impartial policing rules.
Now, I wonder if those guys are up here from Hartford, Connecticut, to see our luscious shopping venues.
Foliage, Terry.
Do you think they were up foliage? That went 5 months ago.
They came up for the foliage.
I thought they came up for a wall hog.
Or skiing. And I'm sure they all quarantined. Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Wilfredo Kerpa of Hartford, Connecticut, denied felony charges of eluding, operating a vehicle at excessive speed, and accessory after the fact. He was held on $100,000 bail. His alleged accomplice, Michael Alamo, also of Hartford, Connecticut, opted to wait until Wednesday to enter his pleas. And Jaquan Flintroy, Jaquan Flintroy, a third suspect who was wanted for second-degree attempted murder, is still at large on Tuesday afternoon. Oh boy. Newport City cops Dave Jacobs, Royce Lancaster, and Chief Bingham were called to the Waterfront Plaza for a report of a man being shot in the leg. While on the scene, Jacobs learned that the Border Patrol, I thought Jacobs was working for the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, she is.
Huh. Maybe it's a different Jacobs, I don't know.
I don't know. She's got a hyphenated name.
I'll be damned. Anyways, I learned that the Border Patrol and the Sheriff's Department were pursuing a vehicle with Florida license plate in the Orleans-Barton area. Police also learned that someone stole the victim's car from the scene. Police found one of the vehicles on West Main Street in Newport City. Wow, that's like right here. Yeah.
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 Jaquan sounds very Irish to me.
Yeah, you know, one of the Black Irish. They're from County Cork, I believe.
Yeah, South Boston.
Yeah, Roslindale, Roxbury. Well, no, he's from Hartford. He also said some men did not, he did not know, showed up at a home on West Main Street with the vehicle. Jacob said the cops talked to someone who said the car is registered to him, but said that the alleged victim paid for it. Oh, sure. What do you think he's going to say? Oh, yeah, it's my vehicle. I let him take it. He said he was going to go shoot somebody. He'd be right back. It wasn't damaged, you know. I mean...
Car's okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he left a burn hole on the passenger seat from a cigarette or something. Other than that, it was great. Now, let's see. They found searching for the vehicles in Orleans Village on Route 5 towards Crystal Lake. They found it on Maple Street. The men took off on food. On food. Who's writing this stuff, Philo?
What paper?
Chris Roy, Newport Daily.
That has to do with your proofwriters.
Yeah,
proofreaders, I'm sorry. Yeah, you know what they did one time? He put in that it was a Hyundai Accord. And when I asked him, Chris, I said, Hyundai doesn't make the Accord. He said, that's what the police reports said.
Ah, yeah. Well, they took off on food. Not on foot. On food.
Well, you get a greasy pizza, you can slide a long way, right?
Yeah, of course they took off on food. You got to eat food. Maybe they took off on foot after they ate the food.
Oh, hey, Mac is on the move. Look at him. Stretch. Oh, stretch.
Oh, crying out loud. He lives. He breathes. He walks. He talks. He wiggles on his belly like a reptile. During questioning, Kerpa admitted to being the driver. He said he was going on south on I-91 when he saw the be doing 95. He was scared and he didn't want to stop. He told police he knew he was in trouble when he parked the car and told Alamo to go into the woods, where the police later apprehended him. He parked the car and told the guy to go into the woods. Here, go off into the woods. They'll never find you. What? What? Kerper said he recently lost his job and drove with Alamo from Connecticut to Vermont to make some money. Oh.
No kidding.
Okay.
No kidding.
Doing what? Roofing?
Yeah, siding. Beekeeping.
Yeah. Foliage tours. He said Kerper told police he sped off and drove to the Waterfront Plaza but returned because people were yelling at him to go back. He told cops that a shot was fired from inside the car and someone in his vehicle got out and jumped into the other one that sped away. He said they dropped one of the vehicles off and went into the home on West Main Street. He told police later that the men had left. Oh, good grief. You know what? Hey, dummies, when they say you have the right to remain silent, use it. All right. Oh, and back to the election stuff. I told you, I hate watching Hannity, and it was horrible. But he promised last night to have on a bunch of real people, these people who signed affidavits, Philo. And most of them, they're not Republicans, they're not Democrats. Most of them were younger people who were either independent or libertarians. Get that, huh?
That's how I voted.
Yeah, and they had enough sack to come forward and say, as good Americans, and say, look, this is all wrong. And they, and I'm sure they got the shut up, kid, go do your job, right? And anyways, this is some of the stuff that's been happening here. They found a computer expert who used real-time entries from the New York Times taking Trump votes in PA. There were, and it's funny that all these states, they just stopped counting at 2 a.m. Trump was winning by a landslide, and suddenly, bang, they stopped counting at 2 a.m. Friggin' not Ohio this time, but Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, bang, they all just stopped counting. And they even said in Georgia there was a broken water main. And it turns out that, well, where's the water main that broke? Well, it's like somebody could say fire in a crowded theater. It wasn't really any water main broken, Philo. And they found 25 data dumps, 97,676 lost Trump votes, while Biden gained 160,000 votes. And with pure volume, big batches started showing up. 96% of them were for Biden. And there's not enough precincts in Georgia. Now get this. And the ballots in Pennsylvania, Philo, how does this math work? They sent out 1.8 million ballots sent out, right, Philo? You know how many they got back?
Oh, 2.2 million.
2.5. Did you know that?
I had a good guess.
Jeez Louise, how does that happen? You send out 1.8 mil and you get 2.5 mil back. And then they got a 600,000 spike for Biden. And out of that 600,000 spike, only 3,200 were from Trump. Huh. So, and then they found another 337,000 spiked votes. And so, and then in Georgia, at 1:34 a.m., they had a Biden dump at 82.4%, which cut Trump's lead in half. And then in Michigan and Wisconsin, all the tallies stopped coming in. And they just stopped. Again, like at 1, 2, 3 in the morning. And then they resumed over the next day, and the thousands of votes were removed and taken away. And in Wisconsin, get this. Now, we've told you about this. Usually, people will vote up and down a ballot. Vermont's the outlier here because people in Vermont tend to vote for somebody they met, somebody they know. It's not somebody's ad you see on TV. It's like somebody knows somebody, or maybe they've seen them on our TV network and come in for an interview, or you know what I mean? So there isn't a tendency to just go down the ballot and check Republican, or Democrat. No, it doesn't work that way. But in most states it does, because most people are party affiliated. And they say, okay, I'm going to vote straight D or I'm going to vote straight R, because it's the red team, blue team thing. They both suck, but still. It's like Philo says, which would you rather be killed by, cyanide or arsenic, right?
Actually, I think it's strychnine or arsenic, because what are the two fast ones? Strychnine
something like
and,
that, yeah. I'll take the faster one.
Yeah, I think arsenic is slower.
Yeah. So in Wisconsin, 49,000 voted for the House Republican, but not for Trump. Now, wait a minute. Why would people vote for Biden and then go down the ballot and vote for a Republican for their local House of Representatives?
Some people do that.
Oh, a lot. Happens often. And then 64,000 voted for Biden, but not for any other Democrats on the ticket. They didn't go down ballot at all. And then, oh, geez Louise. And then with the House candidates, 14,952 didn't vote for any House candidate, only for the president. And it just gets nastier and nastier. And we were wondering, Philo and I have been wondering for weeks, months now, since this virus thing came out, what the end game is, right?
Nobody has an answer.
Well, I think I've come close, and I'll leave this for you if you promise to save it for me.
Yeah.
It's from the Falun Gong people, like I said, the what do you call it? The Chinese expats. They here it is, right here. It's called the oh God, what is it? The Epic Times. I get it once a week. And Fauci has been, he's quoted in the Cell magazine. I don't have a pen, but I'll try and get that article to you also, where they quoted him in the Cell. But anyways, it's you can't see it here, but it's talking about, they're all talking about a global reset, Philo, and the New World Order.
Where did we hear that before?
Yeah, really. Where have we heard that for?
1991 from Old Man Bush.
Yeah, the New World Order.
And
It
you know
stinks.
what? All of his buddies said, shh, hey, shh, no, don't say nothing, no. Oh,
Yeah,
God,
especially the Rockefellers. Don't mention that.
oh, they were all over that.
Oh, God.
A New World Order.
I'm gonna tell you a story, okay? Because we've seen this, Philo and I, and well, me particular. I'll explain the story. We've seen this movie before, okay? Once upon a time, the nation had a centennial, and well, that got ruined because Custer and his men got wiped out, and it kind of put a damper on the whole 100-year birthday party for the USA. But anyways, 100 years roll by, and then we had a bicentennial, 1976. And out of nowhere comes this guy who's not a politician, right? I mean, he was the governor of Georgia, but he wasn't a career politician. He was a farmer, okay?
A peanut farmer.
A peanut farmer, and who happened to be an honest, God-fearing, a real go-to-Sunday every weekend kind of guy, okay? And so I remember seeing him at a mill in Manchester, New Hampshire, when the wool mills were still open and making things here. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, and he's out shaking hands in front of the parking lot, and he says, "Hi, I'm Jimmy Carter, and I'm going to be your next president." And some crusty old Yankee says, "Well," he says, "that may be, but I'm still not voting for you." But anyways, lo and behold, because the Republicans had such crappy candidate in Gerald Ford, who couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time.
He proved that getting off the plane.
Oh, God, yeah, he'd tie his shoes together, for Christ's sakes. And lo and behold, Jimmy Carter won as president. And next thing you know, I mean, we were in no more wars. He put the bite on the CIA and told them to, look, just do what you got to do, but don't start any crap. We're all done with that. He started to enlarge the Peace Corps again so that we would be known throughout the world for helping people. He's damn near stopped this war on drugs so that the cops were actually investigating crimes and stuff. And he stopped going after soft drugs, which in Jimmy Carter's DEA meant anything but heroin, okay? It was a fun bicentennial, but that was a campaign year. But he got elected, and he was doing all this stuff. But what happened was he got down into the swamp, and the Republicans hated him, the Democrats hated him, the news media hated him. But you know what? The people loved him. A lot of people loved him. And he got a little too trippy on the religious stuff and had a bunch of born-again people into the White House. And then he had some cocaine problems with his aides and assistants. And
then there was his brother Billy.
And then it was his brother Billy. Oh, my God.
Did you see the way they grilled that guy over his ties with Libya where there was nothing there?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, kind of like the Russian collusion we've been putting up with for 4 years.
Yeah, but Billy Carter wasn't smart enough to even know Muammar Gaddafi. He didn't even know who he was, hardly.
Yeah. Well, he used to call him my friend Muammar, but he was making fun of the reporters, and they didn't even know it.
Of course not.
So anyways, lo and behold, people loved Jimmy Carter because he wasn't one of them. He wasn't bought and paid for. He wasn't a member of the swamp. But he wasn't a blowhard like Trump either. So anyways, I was living in California, and next thing you know, the machine said, oh, we're not going to let that happen again. We are not going to let somebody from outside the system come in and just take things over. So what they do, they put up Ronald Reagan. with Bush, head of the former CIA head, as his VP.
And Reagan didn't even like him.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. And then what happens? Bang! The same thing with the election, Philo. Mayor Daley and all these people, they tried, but not too hard because they were Democrats, but it didn't work out anyways. But Reagan took the system wanted Reagan, and the system got Reagan. And I'll tell you, I was living in California at the time, Philo, and they came on, the news came on, it's something stupid like, I don't know, the polls closed at 6 or 7 o'clock, out in California, right?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, at like 5 o'clock, all the news media outlets were calling the race for Reagan. So that meant millions and millions of people in California didn't even bother to show up to the polls to vote for Jimmy Carter. And to this day, we look back on him fondly because he wasn't one of them. And that's what happened this time. And they took a vow. They said, "Oh no, we're not going to let any more people that aren't from the swamp into the swamp." But anyways,
the military did him over too when they tried that rescue mission.
Yeah, well,
and you know what happened?
That was the Chinooks too. Those crappy Chinook helicopters.
Well, they also had a fight between the 4 branches of the military over who was going to fly what and who was going to get credit for this. Yep. That's why they eventually ended up with a leader of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, because he told them, he said, this is what's going to happen, as opposed to these schmucks all griping about, I want the glory for the Army, I want the glory for the Navy, I want the glory for the Air Force. They were all in it for themselves.
What you got to do, man, I'm telling you, if you want to go in there, and Trump should have known this. Trump should have got rid of all of the Joint Chiefs of Staff right up and down the line and promoted people who had been in the crap, people who had been in the battlefields in Afghanistan and Iraq, and replaced the generals with colonels and sergeants and people like that who actually know what's going on.
Colonel Klink.
Yeah, Sergeant Schultz.
Yeah, exactly.
Sergeant Schultz is now our Attorney General. I see nothing. And the news media is running with that, too. He says, I haven't seen any election fraud enough to change the outcome. Well, he didn't even start looking into it until day before yesterday. And he came out with an addendum to saying, look, it's not what I meant. And what did they do? They print it, they just came on the news and lied about it last night. I couldn't believe it. I almost threw a brick at the TV. They just flat-ass lied. But anyways, here's what's driving this thing. Now is the time to do what you're told, Fauci sternly lectured us on November 12th. He genuinely wants to prevent people from getting sick. But his belief that experts should decide is blah, blah, blah. Fauci's technocratic impulses were on greater display in a co-authored article in the September 3rd edition of Cell, a respected science journal, in which he warned against a looming pandemic era during which we will endure repeated episodes of worldwide illness. And I asked Governor Scott about this. I said, look, okay, when we had MERS, Philo, and when we had SARS, right?
H1N1?
Yeah, and the bird stuff, H1N1. We knew, they found out within a month at the latest where this stuff had come from, okay? Which animal, which person was patient zero, everything. And I asked Governor Scott, I says, look, we were warned about this by bioethicists, that they shouldn't be playing with this gain of function, which is playing with fire. It's Frankensteinian, okay? We created the monster, it get out of the lab, and now it's ruined the planet. And we were told over and over again by hundreds of bioethicists and scientists saying, look, you shouldn't do it. I said, Governor Scott, would you be willing to sign, a petition saying that we should stop this kind of research, right? Oh, did he tap dance around that one? He didn't have Dr. Levine there to help him with that one, Philo.
Wouldn't have mattered. You'd have got a crap answer anyway.
Yeah, I did. Look it up. It's on YouTube. I did get a crappy answer. He wouldn't commit to it. So now we got Fauci, who actually paid with our tax money to help out the lab in China come up with this crap. Anyways, so the September 3rd edition of the Cell. To avoid calamity, we must empower the UN and other international orgs to rebuild the infrastructure of human existence, from cities to homes to workplaces to water and sewer systems to recreational gatherings and venues. Such a gargantuan revolution will require turning societies upside down and inside out. Chief amongst them, Fauci said, are reducing crowding at home, work, and in public places, as well as minimizing environmental perturbations such as deforestation, intense urbanization, and intensive animal farming. And it wasn't just Fauci. At the World Economic Forum in June, they were talking about a silver lining in the pandemic, Philo.
Oh, lovely.
Well, it's to demonstrate how quickly we can make radical changes to our lifestyles. So anyways, I'll leave this, it's on and on. And nationalistic backlash has made global governance more difficult and more necessary, the Economic Forum declares, without irony. In other words, when believers in national sovereignty successfully resist these technocrats, globalists don't have to listen. It merely means they should redouble their efforts. We got Prince Charles on board, even the Pope, Philo. But this is it. This is their chance. They want to reimagine the being of humanity. We need to reimagine capitalism to incorporate social sustainability and people's well-being, which translate into the private sector will become the prime enforcers of the Great Reset, social transformations, a trend we're already witnessing. Even Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are some of the biggest critics. And unsurprisingly, the article supports even greater censorship of social media than we already witnessed. It's up to the tech companies to self-regulate their content, or failing that, governments to step in and impose restrictions. Okay, great. Doesn't that sound great, Philo?
Hey, I can dig it. You want to know, here's what I found, because I'm a little older than you. When the Vietnam War was out, and you had all these people protesting.
Yeah.
They were all on this big thing about, freedom of speech. People should be able to, have freedom of speech.
No matter what.
However, it's only freedom of speech if you agree with them.
Oh, yeah.
Because that happened. I learned that really fast with these guys. If you didn't agree with them, boy, they shut you right down. Although they were right about the war.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Trust me, I lost my only brother over there. And not a day goes by that I don't miss him. And anyways, here we are. Lawmakers warned and experts warned election vulnerability years ago.
Should have looked at Florida.
Yeah. But I mean, just as recently as last year, this Dominion company has connections with the Clinton Global Initiative and a former staffer to Nancy Pelosi, and the Democrats. I'm telling you, the Democrats were in on it. Elizabeth Warren and all these people. Let's see. John Mills, former director of cybersecurity policy, strategy, and international affairs at the Office of the Secretary of Defense, told the Epoch Times, there is this interesting intersection with the legacy software firmware developers in Venezuela and the current slate of voting machines, including Dominion. Venezuela has a solid footprint of Chinese, Russian, and Iranian activities for influence operation in the Americas. For these not to have an intersection would be odd. And we had Zoe Lofgren. In January, John Poulos, the CEO founder of Dominion, testified at a hearing at the House Administrative Subcommittee, or committee, that their company does have components and products that come from China, noting he doesn't know the percentage. And Representative Zoe Lofgren, a Democrat, questioned exactly where the components from China were, what they were. LCD components, actual glass screens, chips, capacitors, resistors. There's no option for manufacturing them in the U.S. Well, we could buy them from Europe. It might cost more.
Okay, Steve, last but not least.
It's just nuts. But that's where we're headed, man. It's the Rockefellers, the New World Order people, dude. Well, and, oh, good grief. Last but not least. Oh, man. Oh, here we are. Last but not least, the never-ending wars. Here we are. We told you about this one last week, too. The pullout could hurt Somalia, Philo. And here we go again.
We almost care.
Yeah, with the Democrats and Joe Biden, and you're going to see it. Amazon, they're pulling out, but we have to stay, and we have to put up our kids. And the Three Monkeys News, that's what I call it now. It's hear no evil, see no evil, and speak no evil of Joe Biden. Oh, and you remember when Trump said 2 Corinthians, and they were making fun of him instead of 2 Corinthians, Philo?
Yeah.
He said 2 Corinthians walk into a bar and all these jokes and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, last week, Joe Biden was quoting the Psalms, and 3 times he said it was he was quoting a palmist, like a palm reader. Once again, you wasted a perfectly good hour of your life watching the stupid show, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. Until then, get down on the men-only mosque, sniff the bum of the guy in the mandarin next to you, head east towards Mecca with the dog, and say, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Akbar.
Deus Magnus Est.
Lee Oswald is brought down in the elevator coming down to take him to Dallas County Jail. He's coming in to be preceded by several detectives. Homicide Captain Will Fritz on your extreme right. Oswald wearing a black sweater. And there is Oswald being led out.
All right, we got a little activity down there. I don't know what it is.
Now Oswald coming out.
The scene is the basement of Dallas City Hall.
Harvey Lee Oswald being escorted by a series of guards from the Dallas Police Department, about to be loaded into an armored car to be taken to the county jail. Somebody just shot Harvey Lee Oswald. Harvey Lee Oswald was just shot. We have witnessed the shooting of a man who shot Harvey Lee Oswald in the stomach as he was being taken from the Dallas Police Department. A man in a hat and suit rushed up and shot him. Police are still looking for the man who did it.
Oswald fell to the concrete in front of our eyes. The man who saw the shot fired said it was fired by a man wearing a black hat, a brown coat, a man that everyone down here thought was a Secret Service agent.
I saw him there. He was in a group of men right here.
Masquerading as one of us or what?
I thought he was one of the detectives. You know, he had a hat and Stucky was well dressed. That's what I remember.
Had you seen him before?
Bob Walker, WFAA-TV, Dallas, Texas. Interrupting, there's been a shooting at Dallas Police Station as Oswald was being transferred. For details, Bill Lord, ABC at City Hall. Bill.
1 minute ago, they were bringing Oswald out, heading towards the armored car, and there was a bang. We believe it was a shot. Is there someone down on the floor over there?
He is shot. He is shot. Oswald. He is shot. It is Oswald. It is Oswald, a policeman reports.
And police hustled his assailant through the booking room and into the elevator, which led up to the city jail.
The man that shot the man, or do you know?
That is the man that shot the man.
Did anybody know who he was? Did he recognize him?
I don't have his name at the present time.
Moving down now into the basement. Here comes the ambulance. And Oswald will be removed now.
He is still alive at this time, wheeling his body out. Now the body of Oswald being carried out and will be placed on the ambulance.
Here comes Oswald. He is ashen. and unconscious at this time, now being moved in. He's not moving. He's in the ambulance now, and attendants, police are quickly climbing in. They're now having to remove the armored truck from the head of the basement entrance here. Lee Harold Oswald is now in an ambulance speeding on his way to Dallas Parkland Hospital for emergency treatment.